Are you able to hear, Prabhu?
Prabhu, it is
There's a
cracking.
sound which is coming.
It is disturbing.
You have to mute others, Prabhu.
Our Harivaraha Prabhu is acting as a host. I don't know. He was.
Okay.
Harivaraha Prabhu, kindly mute everyone.
Hare Krishna. So yesterday we discussed about indirect processes, how in Kali Yuga that indirect processes have difficulty because of the lifespan of the people in Kali Yuga and because of the obstacles, and how the indirect processes require a lot of effort. And then finally Haridas Thakur mentioned about the direct method of the delivering the living entities in Kali Yuga, that is the Harinam Sankirtan. So with that we concluded. So even one question was raised. One of the point was that we need to maintain certain traditions which we are following, but ultimately our real shelter is in the direct process of the Harinam Sankirtan. Like for example, even in the Govardhan Eco Village, like every day there is a Vaishnava Yagya which is being performed. Like some of you, if you had visited in the morning 8 o'clock, the Yagya Shala, they perform the Vaishnava Yagya. Although Yagya is the process for the Treta Yuga, but still like we are maintaining the tradition, and then in that Vaishnava Yagya, we are also including the chanting of the holy names and worship of Krishna. In that sense, we may maintain the tradition of the rituals and the different processes even of the previous age. For example, the deity worship, we maintain the tradition, but practically speaking that this is not the age for deity worship, because for worshipping the deities we need pure ingredients, but to get pure ingredients is difficult. So therefore, we may follow some of the previous process of the previous. Real shelter or the emphasis should be mainly on the process for this age, that is the Harinam Sankirtan. So with this we'll actually go ahead. We'll come to the second chapter. The direct method of actually delivering the living entities. That is the Harinam Sankirtan. In the second chapter, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually glorifies Haridas Thakur. He actually, after hearing the Haridas Thakur's description of the holy name, he actually glorifies Haridas Thakur by saying that you are actually fully spiritual topics, and you are at all times transcendental to the material desire. So we cannot, we will not be able to find a devotee like you, Haridas Thakur. Like that, Mahaprabhu himself is actually glorifying Haridas Thakur. So he says that like you have actually proved that Krishna is not obtained by any material qualifications, because you are born in a low family, but you have actually attained Krishna. So you have proved that Krishna is not obtained by material qualities or material birth or by any material qualifications. And you have proved that only by having deep faith in the process of unalloyed devotional service is the way to attain Krishna. And you have proved that one who has deep faith in the process of pure devotional service, such a person is more exalted than the Devatas. In this way, Mahaprabhu is glorifying. So we see that one of the things which is given importance, like is that we hear in the Shastra about the different processes, different truths, but a devotee is actually supposed to act like a faith givers of the people. when the devotee actually lives by the Shastra, and when the devotee um, uh, exhibits the results which are mentioned in the Shastra, then the devotee acts like a generator of faith for the common people. When Shukdev Goswami is speaking in the second canto beginning, he said that there are many self-realized people. There are many self-realized people that they got attracted to the qualities of the Supreme Lord. He mentioned that Prayena Munayo Rajan. Many self-realized people, they got attracted to the qualities of the Supreme Lord. And then he says that I am the proof that the qualities of Krishna are sweeter than the bliss of liberation. So he quoted other people. There are many people, many even the Gyanis get attracted to the qualities of Krishna. And I am the living example of such an impersonal Gyani, that I was also completely situated in Brahman realization before. I am the proof that like Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's qualities are sweeter than the bliss of liberation. So we can see that a devotee, how Shukdev Goswami himself is actually acting as a generator of faith. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorified Haridas Thakur by saying that, like, you are the greatest of devotees, you are the ideal example, because you not only live by the teachings of the Shastra, by chanting of the holy names, and you also actually preach the glories of the holy name. There are some people who actually, they may actually speak to others, but they don't live by what they speak. And some people, they may personally practice, but they are not interested in actually preaching to others. But you are the Acharya because you are actually good in the Achara practice as well as the Prachara. So that is why in the Shastras it is mentioned, like there is a Subhashitam which says that Paropadeshe Pandityam Sarvesham Sukaram Rinam Dharme Sviya Manushtanam Kasya Chittu Mahatmanah. So this Subhashitam says that it is easy for people to actually show off one's wisdom by instructing others. But there is hardly any great man whose own conduct is in accordance with the righteousness. So in one sense, it is easy to speak to others, but then it's difficult to find somebody who lives by that. And when we talk about faith, because Mahaprabhu said that like you have proved that one who has deep faith is actually more great, is elevate, more is superior to the is superior than the devatas. So when we talk about faith, that like His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj mentioned that the greatest wealth is actually the faith. Like more than the money or more than even one's own health, the greatest wealth is our faith in Krishna. So therefore, the greatest loss is our loss of faith. So in that way, we see that the greatest service which a devotee can render to other people is that to live in such a way or to speak in such a way that we actually increase the faith of others in the process of devotional service. And the greatest disservice we can do to other people is to actually live or act in such a way that we actually we create doubt in the process of Krishna consciousness, or we actually disturb the faith of others. So therefore, Mahaprabhu is actually glorifying Haridas Thakur for his deep faith and for his practice as well as for and his preaching. So after glorifying Mahaprabhu, after glorifying Haridas Thakur, Mahaprabhu speaks about the 3 types of Vaishnavas in relation to the holy name. So the same, these three types of Vaishnavas were also mentioned by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in relation to the holy name when he answered the questions of the residents of Kulinagram. Every year, the residents of Kulinagram, they would visit Jagannath Puri, and they asked a question to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that we are grahasthas, and how can we actually, how can we attain perfection? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that you chant the holy name and you serve the Vaishnavas. And then the next question they asked is that how do we know who is a Vaishnava? Then Mahaprabhu in the first year, he said that a Vaishnava is one who even once chants the holy name purely. Then the residents of Kulinagram, they became happy, and then they went toward, they departed from, they took leave from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then they went to Bengal. And then again next year, when they came to Jagannath Puri for the Rath Yatra, while leaving from Jagannath Puri, they asked the very same questions. And then, like, we see that in the Shastra, sometimes the questions are repeated, and questions are repeated, and like, for example, even in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna sometimes repeats the questions. So the residents of Kulinagram repeated the same question, but Mahaprabhu did not become irritated. He gave the very same answer. You chant the holy name and you actually you serve the Vaishnavas. Again they asked the same question, how do we know who is a Vaishnava? Then Mahaprabhu said that a Vaishnava is one who constantly chants the holy name. So then they took leave from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then they went. And then third year, when they came, again when they were leaving, they asked the very same question. Then Mahaprabhu said, you chant the holy name, you serve the Vaishnavas. Again they asked, like, who is a Vaishnava? Then Mahaprabhu said that a Vaishnava is one who induces others to chant the holy name. So here we see that sometimes the same question is there, but depending on the person's level of advancement, that Mahaprabhu is giving actually progressive answers in each and every year. As the years progress, Mahaprabhu gave different answers. So just like, for example, that like similarly, like of course, this is here Mahaprabhu is telling with respect to how do we know who is a Vaishnava. Like similarly, when we talk about like engaging devotees, in regards to engaging devotees, like as a person progresses in his devotional service, that I think somebody is not muted or something, some voice is coming. Maybe Harivaraha Prabhu can mute. So the point is that even in regard with respect to engaging devotees, Hare Krishna. Yeah, I muted everyone. Yeah, with respect to engaging devotees also, as a person progresses in devotional service, that one may give like different engagements for a person. Like for example, in the story of Matsyavatar and King Satyavrata, that when Lord Matsya appeared, initially he was in the form of a very small fish. And then the Satyavrata put the fish in a small jug of water. Immediately the fish actually expanded in size. Then the king Satyavrata took the fish out of the jug and put the fish in a bigger reservoir of water. Immediately, in a matter of few minutes, the king Matsyavatar expanded the size even to a huge size. Then the king Satyavrata took the fish out of the bigger reservoir of water and put the fish in a much bigger reservoir of water. Then again the Lord Matsya grew up in size, almost occupying the entire size of the reservoir. Again King Satyavrata took the fish and then put the fish in a big ocean. And then again the Lord actually expanded in size. Then King Satyavrata became helpless, and then he actually recognized that he is the Supreme Lord. So this is a simple story. Of course, this is a transcendental pastime of the Lord, but then we can also learn a say management principle. Management principle is that when a person grows, you have to give a bigger space for a person to work. When the fish grew in size, Matsyavatar gave a bigger reservoir of water for the fish to live. So similarly, when a devotee grows in his Krishna consciousness, we have to give a bigger space for the person to actually perform his service. So this principle not only applies with respect to performing a service, even with respect to the understanding. As a person grows in his Krishna consciousness, a spiritual master or a guru is supposed to give higher and higher levels of understanding. And that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving to the residents of Kulinagram. The same question was asked by the residents of Kulinagram to Mahaprabhu, but each and every year Mahaprabhu gave progressive levels of understanding for the same question. So that is what he is saying. The Vaishnava is one who chants purely even once, and one who chants constantly, and a Vaishnava is one who influences others to take up chanting. So these three levels of Vaishnavas, we can say they are Vaishnava, Vaishnavatara, and Vaishnavatama. So these three levels of Vaishnavas are defined in relation to the chanting of the holy names. So just like, for example, that especially the third level of Vaishnava, one who by the presence of that Vaishnava, others get reminded of Krishna. So that means that particular Vaishnava, he is so much surcharged with Krishna consciousness, and he has created such a strong aura around him that others get influenced by his Krishna consciousness. So that is the topmost Vaishnava, that others get induced by the chanting. Like, in fact, the same principle we see in the Shastra in relation to even to the demons. Like sometimes there are people, okay, they are performing they perform sinful activities once in a while, some adharmic activities, and there are some people who are almost all the time into sinful activities, and there are other people that by their influence that they induce others to perform sinful activities, or by their influence they actually affect the consciousness or they disturb the consciousness of others. So like even at the time of the birth of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, that Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, because they had such a demoniac consciousness, that their demoniac consciousness influenced the entire universe. In fact, in the third canto, there's a description that how at the time of the birth of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, there were so many natural disturbances. How because of those two people's strong negative consciousness, how it affected the entire world. So we can see that the third level of Vaishnava is that one who by his strong Krishna consciousness, he induces others to take up chanting. So this is a very high level of Vaishnava. So Mahaprabhu talked about these three levels of Vaishnavas, and then he asked Haridas Thakur, please describe to me the details of how the living entities take up this wonderful name of Krishna. After mentioning these three levels, he said that, please tell me how the living entities take up the chanting of the holy names. So then Haridas Thakur begins the reply to Mahaprabhu's question. So every chapter we see that like Mahaprabhu, this is like in the form of a conversation. Mahaprabhu glorifies Haridas Thakur, and Haridas Thakur begins another topic in relation to the holy name. So Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur, in reply, he talks about the nature of the holy name. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinatvam Nama Namina. So this verse comes in the, I think, Padma Puran. This verse talks about the nature of the holy name, Nama Chintamani Krishna. That holy name is actually a touchstone which can yield all that one may desire. And to the materialist, the name gives dharma, kama, artha, and moksha. And to the pure devotees, it gives the Krishna prema. And the name that he is the reservoir of all the rasa. Similarly, holy name is called as like Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Chaitanya means it is fully conscious, and Rasa Vigraha, it is a personification of rasa. Even Srimad Bhagavatam is called as the Pibata Bhagavatu Rasamalayam. Srimad Bhagavatam is also called as it is the reservoir of rasa. So similarly, holy name is called as the Rasa Vigraha. It is a reservoir of rasa. It is a personification of rasa. So Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho. It is completely pure. That means it is completely above the three modes of nature. And Nitya Mukto. Nitya Mukto means it is eternally liberated. It is eternally in a liberated condition. It is beyond the three modes of nature. Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatvam Nama Naminam. So Abhinnatvam Nama Naminam means when we talk about any real object will have four attributes. It will have a name, and that object will have a form. It will have a quality, and there will be some activities of that particular object. So that is these are the, like, anything which has these four attributes, then it can be called as a real object. And in the case of Krishna, who is the reservoir of all the rasa, and Krishna is also known by these four attributes. Krishna is also known by these four attributes. But in the case of Krishna, Krishna's name, form, qualities, and his pastimes, they are actually completely spiritual. That they exist in eternity. Krishna's name, form, qualities, pastimes exist in eternity, unaffected by the material world, and they exist through the agency of Krishna's Sandhini Shakti. Like we discussed on the first day, that there are three aspects of the internal energy: Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini. So Krishna's name, form, qualities, pastimes, they exist through the Sandhini Shakti. And in the case of Krishna, in the case of Krishna's name and form, Krishna's name and form are like inseparable dancing partners. Like in the case of an ordinary, any real object, the name is actually separated from the form. But in the case of Krishna, Krishna's name and form are inseparable, like inseparable dancing partners. And Krishna's name has got all the eternal qualities. So there are 64 qualities of Krishna. The living entities can actually develop at most 78%. That means like 50 out of the 64 qualities to some degree. Krishna has got 64 qualities, and Krishna's transcendental names, they have got all the eternal qualities. And the pastimes of Krishna, they take place on the waves of these qualities. Because in each and every pastime, Krishna actually demonstrates some of these qualities. So this is with respect to, like, any real object should have this name, form, qualities, and pastime. Similarly, Krishna also has this name, form, quality, and pastimes. But in the case of the ordinary real objects of this world, the name is separated from the form, and the name is separated from the quality and the activities of that particular object. But in the case like, but although when we say that Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes are identical, but in the case of the dull living entities, they perceive the name, form, qualities, and pastimes to be separate. Like, we are all practicing sadhakas. Like, in the case of us, like, we do not actually perceive that how Krishna's name is actually identical with the qualities, pastimes, and form. So the difference between the pure souls and the impure souls or the sadhakas is that the pure souls, they perceive the nama, rupa, guna, and lila to be identical. They perceive them to be one inseparable principle. So for example, that but among these four things, name, form, qualities, and pastimes, holy name is the primary element, because by this one attribute, all the other attributes can be experienced. Because holy name is the key, and through that one can actually, when a person progresses in one's chanting, that Krishna will reveal his name, or the form, qualities, and pastimes. But holy name is the primary element. And that is why Haridas Thakur says that since all the transcendental pastimes are present in the name is the highest truth and the highest principle, and that is the verdict of Lord Chaitanya. And and then he said that though the name is absolute, different people take up the chanting in different ways. The conditioned living entity who takes up chanting of the name with faith and purity is called a Vaishnava. So again, we see that the importance of faith is mentioned. Like, for example, even in the Sakshi Gopal story, Prabhupada writes a beautiful point. The Sakshi Gopal story, like, there was a old Brahmana being pleased with the service of the young Brahmana. He actually promised to the young Brahmana that I will give my daughter in marriage to you. The young Brahmana was reluctant to accept that proposal because the young Brahmana was from a little low family. He was not so wealthy, but the elderly Brahmana was from a wealthy family. So the young Brahmana felt that the other family members would not agree to the proposal. But the elderly Brahmana insisted that. But later, when the young Brahmana, it is not that he was like lusting after the girl of that elderly Brahmana, but in order to like make the words of that elderly Brahmana, which he made in front of the deity of Gopal, he actually went to the elderly Brahmana, that that family, that please give your daughter in marriage. But then, although the elderly Brahmana was willing, but the son of the elderly Brahmana was not agreeing to that proposal, and he actually accused the young Brahmana that this young Brahmana has actually cheated my father by giving some intoxicants, and then he made this, he forced him to make this false promise like that. So at that time, the young Brahmana, he told that the witness for that promise is the deity. I will call the deity. So, but that son of that elderly Brahmana, he said, oh, deities, a stone will not come as a witness. But this young Brahmana had great faith in the deity, and he said, I will call upon the deity here. So Prabhupada says in that purport that the greatest learned person is one who has actually faith in the words of the Supreme Lord, or one who has faith in the Supreme Lord. He is the he is the really learned person. So here again Prabhupada that the conditioned living entity who takes up chanting of the name with faith and purity is called a Vaishnava. And the person who takes up chanting the name in the mode called Namabhasa is called Vaishnava Praya. So he says that he talks about, there are, we will come to the Vaishnava Praya or Namabhasa chanting a little later. So Haridas Thakur says that so there is the one who chants the holy name with purely, and then he is a Vaishnava. One who takes up the chanting in the Namabhasa stage is called as a Vaishnava Praya. So then after having mentioned this, Haridas Thakur explains that in the entire material world, there are only two spiritual elements. One is the spirit soul and another is the holy name. Only the soul and the holy name, they are the only two spiritual elements. And then Haridas Thakur further goes ahead, he talks about the types of Krishna's names. He says that there are primary names of Krishna and there are secondary names of Krishna. The primary names of Krishna are in relation to his pastimes which eternally go on in the spiritual world, or those pastimes which Krishna exhibits when he comes to the material world. So the primary names of Krishna are in relation to Krishna's eternal pastimes. For example, Govinda, Gopal, Ram, Radhanatha, Gopijana Vallabha. So all these primary names are in relation to his eternal pastimes. And there are secondary names of Krishna. These secondary names of Krishna are in relation to the material world, especially are in relation to Krishna's role in with respect to the material. So these are some of the names which are actually used in the Karma Kanda section and in the Jnana Kanda section of the Vedas. And these names are in relation to the material world. So that is why, like I mentioned, that the Vedas give three levels of meaning. So the like one is on the Adi Bhautika level, and then Adi Daivika level, and then on the Adhyatmika level. For example, even the names of the Devatas like Shiva or Brahma, on the Adi Bhautika level, it refers to that particular Devata. Or on one level, it refers to the particular Devata. But on a more subtle level, it refers to Vishnu. On a even more subtlest level, it refers to Krishna. The sense that, of course, Vishnu and Krishna are same, but the point I'm trying to say is that even all the names of the Devatas, it said that Namani Sarvani Vishnu. All the names of even the Devatas, they refer to Vishnu only, primarily. Secondarily, they refer to the particular Devatas. But anyway, here, what Haridas Thakur is trying to say is that there are primary in the spiritual world, and there are secondary names, they are in relation to material world. So out of these two names, chanting the primary names of Krishna, that will actually give Krishna. Chanting the secondary names of Krishna the devotee, they are primary devotees chanting of the primary names. Because only the primary names lead to Krishna Prema. The secondary names are chanted. Like, for example, while performing the yajnas, uh, performing the yajna. Am I audible, Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
Yes, yes, yes. Now you can. Yeah.
Sure. So we talked about the primary names and the secondary names of Krishna. Primary names in relation to eternal pastime, secondary names in relation to the Krishna, in the material world. And then Haridas Thakur talks about the types of chanting. First is the Shuddha Nama, and then there is Namabhasa chanting, and then offensive chanting. So Namabhasa chanting will be discussed in more detail. The third chapter is only dedicated to the Namabhasa chanting. We will actually discuss it in detail. But Shuddha Nama chanting means chanting purely without any offenses. So offensive chanting, as it shows that offensive chanting means chanting with offenses. So Namabhasa chanting, Namabhasa chanting is that we can say it is like a clearing stage. But a person is just like we talked about Bhakta Abhasa or Bhakti Abhasa means something which looks like pure Bhakti. Abhasa means the semblance. So here often he says offensive chanting is at the great distance from the Nama. So Namabhasa, in the when a person chants the holy name in the Namabhasa stage, the benefit will come slowly. In the Namabhasa, when a person chants the Namabhasa stage, one will be actually purified of the sinful activities. One will be purified of the sinful reactions. But if the person is chanting the holy name in the Namabhasa, the ultimate benefit will come. So if we are talking about the Namabhas chanting, so in the Namabhas chanting, a person will become purified of the sinful reactions, but the ultimate benefit will come only slowly when a person is chanting in the Namabhas. And in the case of offensive chanting is at the great distance from the pure name. So here Haridas Thakur says that there are two types of actually separation from the pure name. In the when he talks about offensive chanting, he says one is the philosophical separation, another is a syllabic separation. So philosophical separation means a person thinks that the name of Krishna is material, or a person thinks that Krishna and his name are actually different, or a person thinks that Krishna's form is material. So when a person has this kind of misconceptions, then even when he's chanting the holy name, that his chanting is considered offensive chanting because he does not have the right philosophical understanding. So therefore, it is important to have the right philosophical understanding that so in the offensive chanting, one category is the philosophical separation. So another category of offensive chanting, here it talks about syllabic separation. So syllabic separation means, for example, a person chants the syllable her, and then he chants the syllable hari, after some time. So the syllables are separated from each other. In the case, by such a syllabic separation, the effect of the holy name is also hindered because it is not chanted immediately. So, but out of the two, syllabic separation and philosophical separation, that philosophical separation is actually, our philosophical misconception is more serious than the syllabic separation, because in the philosophical separation, a person has a fundamentally a wrong attitude towards the personality of Krishna and his name, form, qualities, etc. So, so therefore, the philosophical misconception is more serious than the syllabic separation. The syllabic separation, a person chants the syllable kr, and then a person chants the syllable kr, and then a person chants the syllable shna after some time. So in that when a person chants like that, then the effect of the actual holy name is actually hindered. So and for the example for namabhasa chanting, is like once there was a Yavana, like there was a meat eater or some Muslim. When he was about to die, like he was like some animal came to attack him. At that time he chanted haram. So although he chanted haram, but haram included the name Ram. But here his chanting was considered to be in the namabhasa, because although he chanted haram, but the word ra and ma, they are not separated by some other syllable. He chanted together. But in a syllabic separation, a person chants the syllable ra, and then the person chants the syllable ma later. So that is the syllabic separation. So therefore, here Haridas Thakur talks about briefly about the types of chanting. Shuddha Nam, chanting the name purely without offenses, with a desire to please Krishna. And then he talks about the Namabhasa chanting. Namabhasa chanting is that when a person chants the holy name, it is the clearing stage. We'll discuss the Namabhasa chanting in great detail tomorrow. But in the Namabhasa chanting, a person will be purified of the sinful activities. But the ultimate benefit of the chanting of the holy name will come very gradually in the Namabhasa chanting, will come very slowly. Like for example, Namabhasa chanting, the example for Namabhasa chanting is that somebody chants the holy name jokingly. Or the example for Namabhasa chanting is that Ajamil chanting the holy name of the Lord by thinking about his son Narayan. He did not mean the Supreme Lord Narayan, but he thought about the son Narayan. Sanketyam parihasyam va stovam helanam eva va. Somebody chants the holy name as the matter of joking, or like trying to criticize somebody. Oh, this Hare Krishna is going. So this is like Namabhasa chanting. So in the Namabhasa chanting, one will be purified of the sinful activities, but the ultimate benefit will come very slowly. And then the next stage is the offensive chanting. In the offensive chanting, so Haridas Thakur mentions two things. One is when a person chants the holy name with a philosophical misconception, thinking that Krishna and his name are different, or Krishna's form is material. So this kind of philosophical misconception, that is great. That has at a great distance from the Shuddha Nam. And then there is a syllabic separation where a person chants the one syllable now, one syllable later. But out of the two, philosophical separation, misconception is more serious than the syllabic separation. So then Haridas Thakur concludes by saying that one should chant a principal name of Krishna, and one should chant the name devoid of Namabhasa and Nama Aparada. That means one should chant in the purely. And the person who takes these considerations to heart and chants the holy name even once, such a person is considered a Vaishnava, and he should be served with devotion. And then finally, he says that how can a person overcome the Namabhasa stage, and how can a person come to the stage of actually Shuddha Nam? So for that, Haridas Thakur says that one should serve the Guru with great attention. In order to overcome Namabhas and obtain the pure name, the living entity must serve the genuine Guru with great attention. And by doing this, the anarthas or the impurities will disappear, and the pure name will dance in the devotee's tongue. So at that time, the devotee will not be able to separate himself from the stream of sweet nectar emanating from the holy name. So, and then finally he says that, yeah, the last section will continue tomorrow. So today what we discussed, to summarize what we discussed today, was that in this particular chapter, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began by glorifying Haridas Thakur. He glorified Haridas Thakur by saying that you have proved that Krishna cannot be attained. Krishna is not obtained by a person who has a material wealth or a high birth, or one who has a good reputation, or one who has a like social refinement in his character. Krishna is not attained by material qualifications. Rather, you have proved that Krishna is attained only by a person who has deep faith in the pure devotional service. And one who has deep faith in pure devotional service is actually is greater than the greatest devatas. And then Mahaprabhu glorified Haridas Thakur by saying that you not only practice chanting of the holy name, but you also actually preach about the chanting of the holy name to others. And then, having glorified Haridas Thakur, Mahaprabhu talked about the 3 levels of Vaishnava in relation to the chanting of the holy names. After mentioning that, Mahaprabhu asked Haridas Thakur, please describe to me the details of how the living entities take up this chanting of the holy name. Then Haridas Thakur began his reply by talking about the identity of the holy name, Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nityamukto Abhinnatva Nama Namina. We explained this verse in detail. And then Haridas Thakur talked about the 4 qualities or 4 attributes of a real object: Nama, Rupa, Guna, and activity. And then he said, in the case of Krishna, all these things are Nama, Rupa, Guna, and activities of Krishna. All these things are manifested by Krishna's Sandhini Shakti. And in the case of Krishna, there is no difference between Rama, Rupa, Guna, and Leela. And then Haridas Thakur mentioned that out of the 4, the holy name is the primary element. In the case of a pure soul, they perceive no difference between Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Leela. But in the case of a conditioned soul, they perceive difference between Krishna's name and form, qualities, and pastimes. So then Haridas Thakur talked about the Krishna's primary name and the secondary name. And then he talked about the types of chanting, that is Shuddha Nama, pure chanting, and Namabhasa chanting. And he talked about the offensive chanting. And then finally he said that how to overcome the Namabhasa and how to come to the Shuddha Nama. One of the important things is that one should serve the genuine Guru with great attention. So with this, I will conclude today's class. For our progress to the higher stages, that Namabhasa is discussed in great detail by Haridas Thakur. We will take up this chapter in maybe in few sessions. So at this point, I will end the class. In case if anybody has any questions, I will take. And I don't know, a few times there was some disturbance. I also not know how to figure out. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji,
were you able to hear me in the class? Like sometimes there was sudden.
Yeah, there was a disturbance. Your voice was distorted and your voice was absent for some time. But we could follow the flow. No problem. Prabhuji, I have one question. There is the philosophical 2 types of separation, that is aparadhic, that way of chanting. philosophical and syllabic.
Hmm.
Now, my question is, you said that suppose there is a separation in the pronouncing the word Krish and Na
Hmm.
or the Rama, that will give you the later the results. Now, we are having so many races and caste creed of people in ISKCON who pronounces Hare Krishna in a different way.
Hmm.
Does it have any significance with this syllabic way of offensive chanting? Am I clear, Prabhu?
Yes, I understood.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, we should try to pronounce properly. The sense, definitely pronunciation is important. Although the Shastras they say that they talk about the Krishna's quality of Bhavagrahi Janardana. Even if a person little is improper in the pronunciation, still Krishna will accept that mood. Like there are certain people who come from a certain cultural background, like for example from China or Japan, they have difficulty in pronouncing the maybe the syllable ra. Sometimes they may chant Hare Krishna like that. Uh, So sometimes a person has a certain difficulty. Yeah, that's all right. But as far as possible, yeah, we should try to. Yeah, Krishna essentially sees the mood, but from our side, we should not only chant with the right mood, we should also try to chant with the proper pronunciation. And like for example, the other day was discussing even if a literature which contains the glorification of Krishna, even if that literature is actually filled with mistakes at yasmin prashlokam abadhavatyapi, but still, because it contains the glorification of Krishna, there are saintly people, there are purified people, they will appreciate such literature because it contains the glorification of Krishna. So, in that sense, on the other hand, a literature which does not contain glorification of Krishna, even if it is actually written with the best similes and analogies, but such literature is like the place of pilgrimage for the crows, like that Narada Muni says. So in that way, like yeah, those who are seeking the essence, they see the glorification of Krishna. Similarly, Krishna sees the mood, but still, from the point of view of the devotee, we have to put our effort to properly pronounce. That's what we see in the example of Ishwara Puri and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ishwara Puri had written a book about Krishna. And Ishwara Puri told Nimai Pandit, you are a great grammar teacher. Can you please actually edit my book? Then Nimai Pandit said that, no, whatever a pure devotee has written in glorification of Krishna, I cannot edit. There is no need to edit your book. Whatever you have written is perfect. So he said, I don't want to edit. But Ishwara Puri insisted. But I want the composition to be properly made. Nimai Pandit he saw in that way, but from the point of view of Ishwara Puri, he insisted, no, I want it to be perfectly grammatically correct. So please actually go through my book and find out any grammatical mistakes. Please edit my book. So like, why I mentioned is that from the point of view of a devotee, like one wants to actually, one wants the best offering to Krishna. In that sense, like we should put that best effort. But from the point of view of Krishna, yeah, he sees the mood. He sees the mood, and we also, when we see other devotees, yeah, even if a person little improper in chanting, okay, yeah, we may see the mood. Uh, Somebody may have certain difficulty, but from the point of the devotee, we should try to chant purely and then with the proper pronunciation. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, regarding Namapas and Aprad, you gave the example of Yavana and anyone who is jokingly and criticizing. But is that a bit, in that also there is no philosophical understanding, no, Prabhuji?
In the sense, there is a philosophical, so the chanting of the Yavana was given as a example for Namabhasa chanting. But the offensive chanting is that there is a philosophical misconception. In the Namabhasa chanting, like for example, Ajamil's chanting or the Yavana's chanting, like they didn't have any philosophical understanding. Like they didn't know about the, say, true position of the holy name. They just chanted either jokingly or something. They didn't have any philosophical understanding. But the offensive chanting, a person has a philosophical misconception that Krishna is actually different from his holy name, or Krishna's form is actually material, or Krishna is an ordinary human being. So that is a misconception. That is actually, then that becomes offensive chanting.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have one question in the whole material world, the only spiritual elements are the Jiva and the holy name. And the Jiva is covered by the spiritual element. So, however, the holy name is not covered and it is in a pure form. So, when Jiva comes in contact with the holy name, why his covering is not removed immediately? Can you say something about this?
The Jiva is covered by the voice.
That is, material world has only spiritual elements are Jiva and holy name. It is mentioned, na? Page number 16, first paragraph. Hari bol. Hari bol. Hari bol. Hello. Hari bol.
Can you repeat your question?
Prabhuji, page number 16, first paragraph, it is mentioned that the material world has the only spiritual elements are the Jiva and holy name.
Yes.
So it is said that Jiva is covered spiritual element.
Yes.
But the holy name is not covered this thing. Now, so when Jiva comes in contact with the holy name, why his covering is not immediately removed and he gets the spiritual realization? Can you say something on this? I'm getting confused.
That is what we are going to discuss. That is what we are discussing. Hare Krishna. Yeah, that is the subject of our discussion, that when the Jiva comes in contact with the holy name, that because his chanting of the holy name is not in the stage of Shuddha Nama, holy name, our chanting of the holy name is not in the stage of Shuddha Nama. In the Namabhasa chanting, the sinful reactions are actually removed, but the ultimate benefit will come very slowly. One will very gradually make progress. So therefore, we need to actually know about these three levels of chanting, and which will help us to actually come to the stage of Shuddha Nama. Yeah, that is the answer.
Why is it coming and going? I couldn't hear. Can you repeat tomorrow?
Okay, I'll repeat. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I'll repeat tomorrow. I'm also not able to hear.
Yeah. Hari bol.
So I think we will end the class now. Then, so we'll continue tomorrow.